You are home alone, and you hear on the news about the profile of a murderer who is on the loose. You look out the sliding glass doors to your backyard, and you notice a man standing out in the snow. He fits the profile of the murderer exactly, and he is smiling at you. You gulp, picking up the phone to your right and dialing 911. You look back out the glass as you press the phone to your ear and notice he is much closer to you now. You then drop the phone in shock. There are no footprints in the snow. It's his reflection. A young man suffering from insomnia was trying to fall asleep one night. After many minutes, he was still awake as it got more and more late. He turned on his side and looked out the window. Noticing two streetlights in the distance, he rested his eyes on them and soon fell asleep. The next night, he found himself once again kept awake by his sleep disorder. Remembering the remedy he tried the night before, he turned to his side and looked out the window for the two streetlights. He found them and once again fell asleep peacefully. The next night, his sleeping troubles were back, but he simply looked out the window for the streetlights and rested his eyes on them. Tonight, they were flickering every few seconds. He assumed that the bulbs would soon burn out, and as his eyes began to fall shut, the lights finally burnt out. He woke up in the morning, refreshed. As he got up, he looked out the window towards the streetlights, hoping someone would come to fix them. However, as he looked, he noticed something odd. There weren't streetlights there. He leaned closer to the window to double-check, but still, the streetlights were nowhere to be found. Then he looked down and noticed small claw marks on the windowsill, as if something was perched there. His insomnia got worse.
In Berlin, after World War II, money was short, supplies were tight, and it seemed like everyone was hungry. At that time, people were telling the tale of a young woman who saw a blind man picking his way through a crowd. The two started to talk. The man asked her for a favor. Could she deliver the letter to the address on the envelope? Well, it was on her way home, so she agreed. She started out to deliver the message when she turned around to see if there was anything else the blind man needed. But she spotted him hurrying through the crowd without his smoked glasses or white cane. She was naturally suspicious, so she went to the police. When the police paid a visit to the address on the envelope, they made a gruesome discovery. 3 butchers had been harvesting human flesh and selling it to the starving people. And what was in the envelope the man gave to the woman? A note saying simply, "This is the last one I'm sending you today." There's a bum who lives in our neighborhood in Queens. He used to beg for change, but one day he started painting. He went to a recycling center or someplace like that and collected old paint cans. Most of them still had a little paint left in them. God knows where he got the brush. He started painting on whatever garbage he could find, cardboard, paper, or whatever provided a flat surface. And he was really good too. It was weird. He did landscapes, paintings of the places in the neighborhood, dogs, and some cool-looking fantasy stuff. This guy was the damn Michelangelo of bums. He'd sell them for 50 cents or $1. Then he'd use the money to buy some booze and drink himself into a coma. You know, a typical artist. Then he started offering to do portraits. No one liked them. I don't know why. I talked to a neighbor about it who didn't really seem comfortable talking about it at all. She'd had one done by him and said it disgusted her and didn't look a thing like her. I asked to see it. It was beautiful and amazingly lifelike. When I told her as much, she responded by slapping me pretty hard and telling me to get the hell out of her house. She stopped talking to me after that. Nevertheless, I was so impressed that I asked him to do one for me. He said it would be $2. When I paid him in advance, he told me it would be done the next day. I passed by his usual spot the next day, anxious to see it, but he wasn't there. I was pissed for a moment. I thought he had ripped me off until I noticed something. Down by the side of the building was my portrait, covered with my name and a note on it. The note simply said, "Good luck." I uncovered the painting and was horrified. I looked distorted and misshapen, sickly, twisted in ways that made my eyes hurt. I was clearly dying in the portrait, if not already dead. Bugs and crows were feeding on me. I hadn't noticed one of the other neighbors behind me until he said, "Hey, that looks good. I ought to get one done too." He said it as he was passing and continued to walk on, but not before I got a glimpse of him. He was twisted and misshapen. He walked with a distorted gait. Crows and bugs trailed him, feeding on him. I looked around. Everyone and everything looked the way I did in the painting now. Everything I see makes my eyes water. Everything is horrible and ugly. Everyone tells me how beautiful my portrait is, and no matter what I do, I can't convince them that they shouldn't get one themselves.